So before we start, really quickly, I believe we have some time set apart for the last part of the session. And usually, whenever I talk about AI, typically the question part of it and discussion part of it becomes like even bigger than the session itself. So I'll try to keep the talk piece very short because I'm pretty sure most of the things that I'm going to talk about you might have already seen in one way or the other, because there's so much of news and articles and conversations and everything happening all around us in AI since the last 1 year. So if you have any questions, if anything comes up in your mind, please just put it up in the chat as it comes. I can take it during my talk or after the session. Okay. So yeah, with that note, let's start. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for Rajgiri Pallikkutam for actually inviting me and having me here. It's a real privilege to be here among this big group of educators. Now, quickly sharing my screen. Um, Essentially, I really wanted to through this session. I really um, wanted to, rather than actually take you through a PPT and a typical view of it, I wanted to actually show you some real world examples of how AI works, and potentially show you some ways in which you could potentially use it as well, right? So in the recent times, all my presentations have actually given the uh, presentation decks have actually given way to something like this, as you see on the screen, something which has got some power of AI within it, which I will show you. Right. So essentially, I'll talk a bit about what is AI. Right. So there's a lot of buzzwords happening around what is AI, what's the tech behind it, why does it matter to you, etc. Then talk a bit about how big this transformation is going to be. Talk about the opportunities it actually poses, a bit about the threats, and I really want to focus a lot on how we as educators can change and adapt to this landscape of AI. Right? So first of all, let me take like 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes on the technology behind AI. Right? So I'm pretty sure in this group, the back-end technology or what happens behind the scenes, etc., might not be that important. But at the same time, on a very high level, I wanted all of you to be aware of that, right? Because AI is a keyword which has been in use since like many years, but since the last 1 year specifically, with ChatGPT launched, AI as a keyword has become like an everyday keyword for all of us, right? But what is AI, right? So let me tell you what all of you know, which is machines which are capable of thinking, acting, and reacting like humans, and that is artificial intelligence, right? So giving that capability to machines. So before AI or without AI, all the software, what it does is it's following a set of instructions, right? So we tell it to behave in such a way when a button is clicked, so it behaves in that way, right? So machines are largely computational engines. It can do a lot of calculations, it can do a lot of those things, and it can just follow our instructions. Now with AI, it is actually changing to things which can actually um, uh, think for itself, act for itself, actually be creative, be create things which are beyond the rules which are actually set to them, and that's fundamentally what is AI, right? Now, particularly over the last 1 year, the reason why there is so much of buzz around the keyword AI is because of this particular technology called LLMs. Right? LLMs are large language models. Right? So I'll tell you what it is. It's a very it's one field of study of AI, if you may call it that way. So a particular concept inside the study of AI, where the whole idea is, if there is a machine or if there is a particular algorithm which can be fed as much of knowledge and text that is available in this world, take all the historic information, all the books, or everything that is available on the internet, every tweet that is ever made, every Facebook post that is ever made, every blog ever written, just feed all those things into one system, and it reads through everything. And now the whole concept was, if it is done and there is an algorithm which is made, the algorithm can actually predict the next word in a sentence, right? So you start a sentence, and it can predict the next word in that sentence, right? That's this technology of LLMs or transformers, etc., which are being spoken about. So this company called OpenAI created this particular technology, fed like billions of lines of text into this technology, and literally billions of lines of text into this technology, and created this system called GPT, right? So, and this system, uh, surprisingly for many people, it worked amazingly well. Right? So all it does is predicting the next line, or the next word, right? So literally, people who have used ChatGPT, you type something and it'll just come in, right? So line by line, it is literally like that. It predicts the next word. That's pretty much what it is doing, right? So, and it worked surprisingly well, right? And then ChatGPT was launched, which is the chat version of this particular system, and this became an instant hit. And LLMs, or large language models in general, it became like futuristic. All of a sudden, we had never seen something like that. A system that can actually create poems, write stories, knows anything in the world. You can ask it to write anything, and it'll just do, right? So it looks very, very intelligent. And I specifically use the word looks because it only looks intelligent. It need not actually, it actually does not have the cognitive abilities that a human does. So I always like the word fake intelligence than artificial intelligence for this particular technology, right? The LLM technology, because it's basically predicting the next word and creating an illusion of intelligence. That's what is happening in this technology. Okay? Now, all those technology pieces apart, I just said this because just so that you are aware of it. All these things apart, the biggest advantage that AI is bringing onto the table is it is actually making software accessible to all of us. So previously, machines would only understand code, right? So you have a C++ or a C or a Python and different coding languages, and only people who understand code could actually interact with a machine, right? They would interact with the machine, they would create a software and create like buttons and pages and click through stuff, to make the whole thing easier for normal people who doesn't understand code, so that we can interact with systems, right? Now all of a sudden what is happening is that barrier is just getting shattered, right? That barrier is getting shattered in such a way that any of us can interact with machines in in our normal language, just like we would interact with someone else. Right? So you can even create new softwares. You can make your system do whatever you want to, because now the machine has the capability to understand what you say. Right? It need not be in a C++, it can be in English. Right? So that is, for me, the biggest revolutionary change which is happening right now is that each one in this call, so we have 47 people in this call, right? Um, uh, Whether or not you know how to code, you can now interact with machines and actually create stuff, right? So create stuff, and that is a big huge difference. And that's why groups like this is more important when it comes to AI, right? So what it actually gives you is the wonderful power of being able to create stuff in the create software or create things in a machine, which you couldn't do maybe 1.5 years back. Until you learn coding, you wouldn't be able to do it. Now you can do it. That's the biggest difference, right? And let's start from that context, right? Now, talking about how big this transformation is going to be, I intentionally did not write anything, right? Or did not put any additional points there, right? Because I really wanted to show you the power of this thing, right? So this particular software that I'm using called Whimsical, I use it for planning, I use it for mind mapping and a whole lot of different things. So they have integrated a little piece of AI into it, right? Now, I have AI for educators as the talk, and I want to talk about how big this transformation is going to be, right? So now I can think in my brain how big this transformation is going to be, etc. Or I can just click on this beautiful button here, and the machine will start populating what are the different ways in which AI is going to be significant in your life, right? So this is an AI powered system. So it is now saying it has the potential to significantly transform education by personalizing learning experiences. It can automate administrative tasks in your institutions. It can provide insights from data analysis to make informed decisions about curriculum. It can have virtual tutors and chatbots powered by AI. So it is also talking about ethical considerations, right? Now, let's say I want to dive into this ethical considerations piece, right? What are the ethical considerations? Okay. So let's again click on that button here, right? So it's now telling me what are the ethical considerations out there, right? So now you can imagine how easy it would be for me to actually plan for this session, right? So create something like that, just apply my additional thoughts on it, or just drive this into where it has to be, right? So everything that is created is so easy to create. In fact, this whole thing that I'm showing you is so easy to create, just a few clicks of buttons, and it'll start telling you what it is, right? Now, back to the point of how big it is going to be. Um, so there's this so there's this interesting blog by Steve Jobs where he says 35 years back he saw the graphical user interface, right? Graphical user interface is basically all these windows and apps and all these things that you see on your system, things that you can actually move your cursor of your mouse and click on, etc. That's like graphical user interface. So before the invention of graphical user interface, people could only interact with machines through writing these very hard code. And with graphical user interface created, suddenly computers become accessible for like 100% of the population, or potentially accessible for 100% of the population rather than probably 0.5% of the population who could code, right? So he says after that, it's the first time he is witnessing something so transformative for us, right? When he witnessed AI. Right? So if someone like Steve Jobs, who have seen it all, right, who have been in this space for 40 years, should say that, it should be that big, right? It should be that big. So the creation of graphical user interface is what took computers out of the labs and put it in the pockets of all of us. And it's that kind of a transformation which is happening with AI, right? So suddenly software is becoming not just a workflow system, it is becoming much more of an assistant or an intelligent assistant for us, right? It's going to be a big huge change, right? Now the kind of things that we can do as individuals with software, it has just become 10x over the last 1 year, just in 1 year, with the invention of one single thing. So on this one, the biggest note that I want to actually leave you with on this point is there's no ignoring it, right? And the 48 of you or 47 of you being in this session, wasting or potentially taking 1 hour of your time out of your schedule and listening to us, it's because you care for it, right? And I appreciate that. So there's no way in which you can actually not care for it. It's going to be that big. The transition and transformation is going to be that big, and it's actually going to play to your advantage because now you can be creators, right? It need not be the person who understands code. You can be creators with simple English language, right? So it's going to be a huge transformative thing and a huge uh, advantage for you if you if you plunge in, right? And if you don't, you're going to be left out, right? So it's going to be huge. So definitely plunge in. Okay. So with that note, right? Those are more of introductory notes. Let me jump into the opportunities, right? So specifically in education. Right? So uh, uh, while we can actually think about like hundreds of use cases of AI in education, I really wanted to, for the scope of this conversation, I really wanted to just bring it down to just 2 or 3 points, right? So one is hyper personalization. Everyone talks about personalization, right? The real advantage of AI is that it can actually give you very personalized. It's like it's like each one of you, right? It's like each one of you. If you had like all the 24 hours of your time dedicated to your classes, right? And that is what is AI bringing it, right? So it can actually create. It knows a lot of things. It can actually be personalized for each need. Right? It need not be like boilerplates. It need not be something printed on a book which cannot be changed after it is printed. It cannot. It cannot be. It need not be like a curriculum which is set at the beginning of the year which cannot change. Right. It can be extremely personalized for someone. Right. So simple ways in which you can actually take and understand the power of it is you can essentially upload the answers that one of your or 5 of your students wrote and upload all these things into an AI system like ChatGPT and ask it to suggest ways to improve for each of these texts, right? Imagine you're an English teacher, right? So you want to give personalized suggestions for each of your students, 50 of them, right? Ask them to write an essay, feed it into ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT to actually or tell ChatGPT what you want exactly. Being an English teacher, you will exactly be able to actually tell it in plain English, right? I want you to examine it based on these factors. So grammatical correctness, formation of sentences, the clarity of thoughts, whatever it is, right? And give me just write all these things, which whatever I'm saying, right? So give me suggestions or give me a score based on out of 10, and after that give me exact suggestions on which are the areas where this child should improve, and give me a complete report about each child, right? Now uploading these 50 essays into ChatGPT might take you like 5 minutes, right? If you have a proper system, right? And in 5 minutes you have and basically to create this whole thing you might need some iterations. You try it once with one essay, you feel that the report could be slightly better, you can actually tell ChatGPT, hey, you know what, I need it better. So it'll make it better. So in a few iterations, you will create it. Maybe you take 1 hour for you to actually create it, right? Once it is created for each student in your class, you can create personalized assessments in 5 minutes, right? Now look at the power it has, right? It's basically doing what you want to do, right? It's like you are having a junior assistant whom you are telling, this is what you need to be doing, and I want these things, and that is where personalization comes into picture, which also takes us to the second point, which is productivity for educators, right? So you also already saw how this tool like Whimsical and the AI power in it is actually bringing in productivity into my life, right? And it will be very easy for you guys to imagine how it can bring productivity to your lives, right? So and and productivity also means that you can do much more for your children, right? For these students, right? So while it was just marking, because your bandwidth only limited you to do certain things, and now that limit is being taken away, because just with the same time that you spend, you can do much more for these students, to help them learn better, right? So and starting from simple things like creating a question paper, and we'll later come to some tools which I'll show you, where you can do specific these things, creating a question paper, creating a class plan, creating a smart way in which you can explain some things. If you're a science teacher, you want a very specific bisection of a bisection image of a heart, which actually shows in a very age appropriate way, you can actually do that, right? So I'll show you examples of all these things, right? So you don't even have to look for whatever is available in the internet. You can actually create all these things and just show your children, and that is creativity with no bounds, right? So your your role as an educator becomes suddenly the role of a creator, right? So you are actually, rather than following what is being written in a book, you're on the go creating, right? And you have a creation assistant right with you to give you whatever you want, right? And that is AI, right? Now, I'm I'll just take a pause. I'm saying a lot of these things with the assumption that you guys, most of you might have at least used ChatGPT in your life at least once. So I'm going with that assumption. So probably, just in case if there is at least one person who hasn't used, I'll quickly show you some example, an example of uh, what this could be. So let me this is ChatGPT, right? So let us think about some of these things that we talked about, right? So you want to say, you want to create something, you want to create an assignment, or you want to create a questionnaire for a ninth grade student, um, on the topic of uh, trigonometry. I don't even know if trigonometry is part of my screen, but yeah. So now ChatGPT starts creating questions, right? So it is just creating these questions, right? Now it has just started with it, right? Now in one go, this might not be really the one that we want, right? It's just creating a questionnaire for your next test, right? Now it is creating questions. Now you can very specifically specify how many questions you want, what is the complexity level you want it to, yeah, you want this to actually come up with, what is the type of questions and answers you want, descriptive answers, or you want multiple choice, and multiple things like that, right? So this comes from a simple prompt like this, right? So I just said create a questionnaire for the ninth grade student on topic trigonometry, right? So now I can start interacting with it, right? So I can say, hey, this is too complex, right? I want something simpler. Just have 5 questions, um, one of which one of which should be descriptive, 4 should be um, multiple choice. So it is now simplifying the question, right? So it is now giving like 5 questions and giving much more simpler questions, right? So now if you want more specifications, I want 30% of the questions to be simple, 30% of the questions to be medium, 30% of the questions to be, or 40% of the questions to be really hard. You can actually do that, right? So it's as simple as actually telling, right? So and this is ChatGPT, right? Now you can do other things as well, right? Create a bisection image of a heart for a third grade student, right? Grade student. Now now ChatGPT goes into creating an image, right? If you can see the screen, it'll load, it'll create an image, right? And it should ideally come up with the bisection of a heart, right? Now I'm pretty sure as educators you might come across things that are not available in the book, right? You want to really show this concept, but a really good visualization is not available in the book. So you can actually create these things, right? Now we did it for the third grade student, and obviously you can see how that images, right? Now let's see what it does for a ninth grade student. um, So immediately we say, okay, ninth grade student create something and come back to come back to me. So for the ninth grade student, immediately it created a much more complex image with like detailed, what do you say, uh, explanations, etc. Now, I should also say, when it comes to image generation, AI as a technology is not there yet. So you see a lot of mistakes in it, maybe, etc. It can happen, right? So don't trust it completely. So even here, there are a lot of things which doesn't make sense, especially in terms of the annotations. But the the fundamental is you can create stuff, right? You can create stuff that you need. So that was just a distraction there or a detour there just to make sure that we are on the same page. So these are the things that you can actually use to do it, right? So this is what I was saying when you can upload an essay and ask ChatGPT to give suggestions, right? So you just paste the essay and say, hey, I want suggestions on this one in this particular way. Right? So that is basically you can create your own tools, right? You need this little tool of a tool to evaluate a child. You need this little question paper creation tool. You need this little, what do you say, personalized assessment tool. So all these things can be created with plain simple English. So that's the beauty of it. Now, um, that's on a very high level. The opportunities that something like this is actually bringing to you. Now, let's talk about the threats, right? Obviously, there are threats. I don't want to spend too much time on it because threats are threats. It will be there. So you might already be seeing a lot of assignments probably ChatGPT created and things like that, which might or might not be seen as a threat. Um, so if you talk more about it, we might disagree as well quite a bit. I see that as positive. But in the current educational system, these can be problems. But beyond that, there are challenges which are actually coming up, like ethical issues. You might have seen like fake videos and fake images being created and circulated and all those good things. So technology has to evolve to actually adopt to it, and obviously the society also will evolve a bit to identify that and adopt to it. Me personally, there are a lot of great minds actually working on this AI ethics space, etc. And obviously, another one is jobs. So everyone talks about jobs lost. I like to talk about jobs transformed, right? So as I said, as educators, for example, right? It might be you might have come across these notions that uh, people might lose jobs. Okay, so if AI can cheat, if AI can teach, where would teachers go, and all those good things, right? So a lot of these conversations are there. But from whatever I told in the beginning, uh, you might have seen that it's basically powering you, right? It's empowering you to do more and more. Right? So that's where a lot of opportunities open up. And typically in this context, there is this very interesting story which is being talked, which is talked about when assembly lines came. So there was like huge when car manufacturing assembly lines came. So a human no longer needed to actually sit there and weld it and do things like that. This was probably like 8 years back, and there was like huge union protests against this in the U.S. When this whole thing came in the first place, right? But look at what happened, right? So generally, new opportunities will come up, and jobs of today might not look attractive in the future. And when I say future, I'm not talking about like 20 years later, but I'm talking about 3-4 years later. It might not, because every human will have like a lot more power to get more things done. So it's definitely going to be transformed, right? And if you're not in that transformation, if you're not on top of that transformation, there is definitely a risk that you might go irrelevant, right? But the beauty of it is, this is much more democratic than, say, how software came or how computers came. So computers made like probably 10% of the population creators and 90% of the population consumers of computers, or be it a mobile or a mobile app and all those things, right? With AI, it has a potential to make 100% of the population creators, right? Which is huge, right? So uh, again, the biggest note on that is jobs are going to be transformed, including the educators' jobs are going to be transformed, right? So stay on top, right? And definitely, there's going to be a lot of clash between the new and the old. So just like any advancements, there's going to be those clashes, but will be figured out sooner than later. Is what my notion. I mean, what my thought process around the whole thing is. Now, to the slightly more interesting part, right? So, uh, how can we change, right? So, I spoke about changes, I spoke about technology differences, I spoke about how important is it to change. Now, how can we change, right? Now, I'll take you through some fundamental tactical steps. When I say tactical steps, things, simple things which you can actually start doing tomorrow onwards, right? Um, through which you can start adopting, right? Because with AI, that's what is more important. You go to an AI class or AI 5 months AI course, and you're not going to be like there, because you are already experts of using the system. You just need to start using the system, right? As long as you know English, you are experts of using the system, right? You can use these systems. That's the beauty of it. So it's just about starting using, right? So now, um, for the teachers, the biggest things are the blended teaching methods, which I was actually talking about, right? So, probably the first is to understand the basics of tech, right? So, what happens behind the scenes? What is this whole thing about, right? Etc. At least on a very high level, if you have some understanding, it can always be helpful, right? About, and at the very least, to identify what is right and what is wrong, right? So you see an image, you should be able to identify if it is AI generated or not AI generated, right? You generate an image, you should have the uh, minimum knowledge to understand if this can be trusted or not, right? So just like the heart example that I showed, right? So if you blindly trust that and put it up, then it can be a problem, right? So when you know the technology that goes behind, at least to some extent, you have an understanding that these can be trusted, these things cannot be trusted, right? So understanding the basics of tech, the very basics of tech, is like one important piece. The second is to include blended teaching methods into your systems, right? So start using ChatGPT to. I mean, that's the simplest step that you can actually make, right? So every day while you prepare your lesson, so you're preparing for your next day's lesson, right? So you might have been doing this for many years now. You might know how to actually deliver it in an amazingly great way. So, but simply ask ChatGPT this question, right? So tomorrow I'm going to take this session on this particular topic. How do you think I can make it more interesting, right? So it's a simple question that you can ask, right? And I'm pretty sure every day you will get something or the other, something new, right? Which is taking your teaching styles one notch higher. So, and so once you start doing that, you can probably start using the same AI to create content for that, to create presentations for that, to create images for that, so to create a lot of new things, right? So that is where in your everyday simple activities you can simply start with it, right? So this is something that you can start today, right? I'm sure for the next Monday you will have something to teach, right? So that's where you can actually start with it, and adopt AI every day, right? So in preparing a question paper, in your everyday activities, right? Almost everything that you do in your classrooms or outside of your classrooms while preparing, almost everything can be made at least like 10% better with the help of AI. Treat ChatGPT like an assistant that you have with you always, right? An assistant with a lot of knowledge, an assistant with a lot of intelligence, a lot of creativity, and an assistant who is available to you every single time, right? So each teacher is having an assistant here, right? So that's a beautiful beauty of it, right? And the last piece is encouraging students to use it, right? Because just like us, just like we do not have a way out, we do not have a choice of not using AI. The students also do not have a choice of not using AI. AI will be in their lives sooner than later. So encourage them to use it. Right? Whatever interesting thing that you learn, pass it on to your students. Generally encourage them. Right? So uh, those are some basic things. But in case there are schools and managements or representatives here, there are a bunch of other things as well, right? So first of all, being open to changes, right? A lot of these things are going to change. So being open to that, adopt the real smart techniques, right? So we have been hearing about smart for a very long time. Smart classrooms, smart this, smart that, right? Smartphone, right? Suddenly with AI, all these smart things start to look dumb, right? Because the capacity or capability of those all of these things appear very limited when we have AI, right? So there are going to be a lot of tools and techniques and softwares. I have listed a few of them here in itself, which we'll come to. A lot of these things which can be there, which you can really adopt for your school, your teaching styles, etc. Right, which you can actually use to use across your school. Bring AI into the curriculum, right? So whether it is part of your board or not, bring it into the curriculum, which because it's going to be fundamentally important, right? And definitely encouraging students to use it, right? And I'm saying this again and again. I'm a huge proponent that everyone should be encouraged to use it than discouraged in general. Now, last 5 minutes, let me talk about some tools here as well, because this is probably going to be the most important thing beyond all the can which I tried to say. The most important thing that you can actually take home. ChatGPT, obviously, right? And I would argue that potentially ChatGPT is probably the only thing that you would need. But there are certain DIY things, the do-it-yourself tools, which are out there, which are very generic AI systems, which you can use for practically anything, right? So ChatGPT or Perplexity or Cloud or Bard, all these things are very similar tools, right? So ChatGPT is from OpenAI, Bard is from Google. These are two other companies. So all these things pretty much do the same thing in different ways, right? So if you adopt just ChatGPT, that's enough. So just make sure everything, as I said earlier, everything you do, ask ChatGPT once, right? About how you can actually make it better, right? So those are the DIY tools. You can start using it right now, right away. And these are very general purpose. You can actually use it for anything, right? Many use cases. Right? Now there are some slightly more complex tools as well, right? A lot of interesting tools which are actually coming up in the space of AI. Right? Some of these are given here. You can actually visit them as well, right? So audio pen and otter, these are like voice to text tools, right? So you can basically say something and make it a note, right? So uh, tomorrow you want to actually prepare a note, you don't want to type it, right? It can be as simple as that. You have everything in your head, you want it on a paper, you want it printed, right? Instead of writing it or typing it, you can simply talk this, right? Or you want to record your classes and make it a note, right? So Otter, for example, is an interesting player here, right? Practically, if you just take your phone, record your class, whatever you're delivering in your classroom, and give it to Otter, it can in few seconds, it can take all those voice, convert it to text, summarize it, and create a really nice class note for you. So that's Otter, right? So this Otter and Audio Pen, both of them are very similar ones, and there are like hundreds of different things as well, right? So doing the same thing. EduAid.ai again uh, is a is a specialized tool for educators, right? So if you go to EduAid, it actually provides AI-assisted feedback, everything that I talked about earlier, right? Feedback, personalized learning, assessments, lesson planning, question paper planning, all these things they have actually created very specifically for educators, right? But again, I would say you wouldn't need to use EduAid if you can actually ask ChatGPT and get what you want. It's pretty much the same thing that EduAid will do, slightly easier for you. So quiz is a lot of you might have actually seen this. You can actually create quizzes, right? Small class quizzes, etc. Airclavia is question paper generation, right? So just for question paper generation, look at it, right? So I think these guys are actually doing it. They have the curriculum, our board curriculums already uploaded, so you can actually make question papers based on the curriculum. Again, the same thing you can do it with ChatGPT. If you upload the curriculum into ChatGPT and say, "Hey, for this curriculum, I want the question paper." Right? Duolingo, most of you might know it. Duolingo. This is the most popular language learning app in the world. Duolingo has this amazing, what do you say, AI-driven product that they have launched for language learning, very specifically for language learning. Then for research, the Resourcely learning tool, again, Socratic is a learning tool by Google or from Google Research. So it is, so if you can see the demo here, right? So you can simply click a picture of a problem on the paper, and it can basically give you how to solve it, right? All the answers on how to solve it, right? So any algebra, arithmetic questions, and all those good things, it can actually solve it. So it's available as an app, etc. So uh, and and so and again, so another list here which I found was student AI tools. So this is like an amazing list of like hundreds of tools like this, right? Which you can use in your regular journey, regular school, or a student can use in their journey as well directly. So, but I would strongly suggest all of you just visit this place, this particular tool, this particular page, and find some tools, right? You'll be amazed by the number of tools which are available out there, and the kind of things people do with these tools, right? With AI. But again, going back and saying one thing, you don't need to use like 100 different tools and try to figure out and try pay for all these 100 tools, etc. All you need is ChatGPT or Bard. Right? You can do almost all these things in there because now you are the creator. You don't have to write code. You just say English and the system will understand. Right? So uh, that's the beauty of it. Now, with that, I'll stop my monologue. Right? Can take questions. If anyone has a question, you can unmute and ask. I believe right, Nicey. So you can unmute and ask, or put the question in the chat. I'd be happy to answer those questions. So yeah, the software name, I believe, yeah, it's Whimsical. This is one simple software which I use for my brainstorming purposes, and also I use it for multiple things. Right? So this is not a software made for education. This is a software made for for enterprise planning and things like that. But it can be used for education. So, but this is called Whimsical. How do we guide students to use AI responsibly? Though we have conversations, some are paraphrasing using AI tools and can go undetected. Yeah, so the answer to this one is I don't think we can stop them. It would be a lost case to actually trying to stop them, right? I'll tell you a reason as well, right? So initially, OpenAI, who's the creator of all these things, this company who created all these things, launched a tool which launched an additional tool. I mean, other than ChatGPT, they launched another tool which would help you detect AI generated text, right? So you could use ChatGPT to generate text, and you could use this other tool to identify if it is ChatGPT generator or not, right? Now, 3 or 4 months later, they decided to shut down that tool, and the reason they said was they were unsuccessful in detecting it. So the whole creator of this whole tool uh, said that we cannot do it. We cannot detect whatever is created by ChatGPT. So I would completely say it is not a it's not possible, right? In the long run, especially with all the advancements which is coming, to detect and stop anyone from using AI is practically impossible, right? Now, what we can do is to change the methods, right? So the whole concept of assignments or what do you say, coursework, etc., were created based on the fact that the information is available in multiple places. You just you have to build in your intelligence, collate it, reproduce it on a paper, and so through that you learn, right? But the world is in a place where the world is in a place where it is not what do you say it probably is not needed, right? So essentially just like the difference between closed book tests and open book tests, the methods and the techniques has to change, and those will change for sure, right? So my suggestion on that would be fundamentally changing the way in which we approach it rather than trying to stop it, because stopping is going to be practically impossible. If you do all our work through chatbot, it will indeed save a lot of our time, but will not have it. It not have a negative impact on the thinking ability and creativity of educators and students. Right? Now, again, this is an interesting point which we keep saying about remembering phone numbers. Yeah, so we used to remember all the phone numbers, but with smartphones coming, we cannot remember any phone numbers anymore, right? So my answer to this would be definitely it will impact, right? Definitely it'll impact the ability and creativity, etc. But so far, what I've seen, at least in terms of me using it, is uh, it will it will enhance whatever is it will enhance our creative thought process as well. Right? The quality of work that we do is always a combination of the creativity that the system has and the creativity that we have, because the system can create something very simple, right? Now what will happen is there will be people who write a simple query, get something out of the system and just copy and paste it, right? And there will be people who enhance that system with their own creativity, ask additional questions, prompt them more, what do you say, give them extra context, talk to it a bit more, and get a better answer, right? Now that's a second group of people, right? Now soon what is going to happen is, just like you have a group of people who cannot reproduce something on paper and who can reproduce something on paper, there is a difference, right? So just like that, the difference is going to be people who can use the system really well, or people who can bring their creativity into the AI and combine that creativity and do a better work, and people who cannot do that, right? Suddenly there is going to be a stark difference between the quality of things that these guys create, right? And suddenly there will be a place where you will be able to identify that as well. Now the bar is getting raised. That's what is happening right now, right? The bar of creativity is getting raised now. The bar of expectation is getting raised. Now, if you use AI, combine it with your own creativity, you will create much more better results. So that's the way I would think about it, right? You can choose to like dumb down your creativity and just give whatever the system gives, but that will make you like in the lower spectrum of the achievers. But on the other side, if you decide to actually and exercise your creativity more, it'll make you better, right? That's what is going to happen, right? And there's going to be a stark difference between people who use it well and who do not use it well. Yeah, hope I answered, but if you have any clarification questions, etc., you can always unmute and ask. There are AI detection tools available if the students are expected to present a research paper. If the students are expected to present a research paper. See, AI detection tools are available, and what I was trying to say is none of them is going to be successful, right, for a long term. because that's the pace at which this whole thing is evolving, right? So, and again, AI detection tools will fundamentally, what do you say, be able to will help you identify these people who use the system in a bare minimum way, and the people who use the system smartly. Or in other words, it'll the AI detection tools will help you identify people who do not bring their own creativity along with the AI's creativity, and the people who bring their own creativity with the AI's creativity, right? So if you simply ask a one-liner to ChatGPT and copy paste, many AI systems will be able to detect it. But if you ask like in a nice, in a different way, in a customized way, etc., all these AI detection tools are going to fail very soon. Yeah, so sometimes the AI response are not readily useful for especially academic purposes. It hallucinates and all, yes. How do we make the AI more aware of the actual syllabus of the certain courses and programs to make it useful, right? Yeah, this is exactly the point which I was covering in the previous points as well, right? So don't think of AI as a single line question answer machine, right? So you ask a question, it tells you something, right? In that way, AI is not going to be, what do you say, hugely useful, right? The first time we see it, it was like really nice, but as you can imagine, I mean, as you can see, you will be seeing a lot of in my personal line of work. I see a lot of emails which are ChatGPT generated, right? In the first look itself, it is ChatGPT generated, right? Um, so I'm like, yeah. So another ChatGPT. I'm like unimpressed when I see an email like that, right? Similarly, a LinkedIn post or Facebook post, these things which are ChatGPT generated. In your line of work, you might see assignments, courseworks, etc., which are actually ChatGPT generated. But those are for the people, the first segment of people who do not bring their creativity. Now, if you bring in your creativity, just like the example that I showed with ChatGPT, right? So you can keep interacting with it, right? So you can basically, for example, the syllabus, right? If you have a text of all the syllabus, you can actually upload that text into ChatGPT and say, hey, I want the coursework to be based on this particular syllabus, right? Say that, right? Or I want this particular essay to be created this way, right? So you can actually talk to it about the style of language, right? Or the way in which it is written, etc., right? So probably I could give you an example as well, right? So write a short 200 word essay about the public. Okay, so I can do this, right? Now tomorrow you ask your child to, I mean, ask a student to actually do this, and they can basically do this and copy paste. So this is the dumb way of doing it, right? This is the not so creative way of doing it. Now I can uh, edit it, right? I can ask them, and I mean ask ChatGPT to make it better. This should be in a Gen Z language, right? Um, and it should be less than 50 words. Okay. Suddenly the language will change, right? You can look at um, so words, right? The constitution kicked in, right? Suddenly it becomes like Gen Z language, turning into a cool republic, right? So ChatGPT suddenly starts responding in a totally different way, right? Now I want I how would Shakespeare write? So about the same thing, right? So uh, so it'll start writing Shakespeare in English, right? Now, if you look at it, the first one, it might be very easy to detect that it is a ChatGPT generated. Now, the moment I started telling it to change, do things in my way, or the way I want it, etc., suddenly it starts becoming very difficult to detect, right? So if a ninth standard child, which is a Gen Z child, uses all of these things and comes up with something like this, trust me, you're going to have a very hard time, or any AI tool is going to have a very hard time identifying that this is ChatGPT generated and not a Gen Z kit generated. Right? So that's how you can actually make it. Right? You can make it work by interacting with it like how you would interact with a assistant, right? A human assistant. Imagine you have a human assistant who is writing this. You're asking, hey, this is not working, you change it this way, etc., right? So you keep giving these feedback, and he or she actually rewrites it and gives it. So go with that mindset, right? Instruct it. It's like a human, right? So treat it like a human assistant. So then you will be able to make it highly customized and highly useful. So yeah, so I hope it answered the question.